Hello everyone, it's Friday once again, and that means it's time for another edition of Artisan Weekly. It's been a really interesting week. We had Laravel London on Wednesday. It was a small turnout, but we had some really great chats. Talked a lot about AI, Laravel Cloud, and how teams are working with AI and things like that. So even though it was a small crowd, still it was a really good event. Of course, we're still in the middle of a heat wave, so yep, it's a hot one. And kind of segueing from that, let's get dug into this week's top 10. So first up, we've got a post here on the NativePHP blog by Simon Hamp, answering that question that you've probably been asked thousands of times, why they built NativePHP. It's quite nice to kind of have a, to hear the backstory about why they built it. And of course, as we all know, Simon and Shane are doing an amazing job on this, and it's great to see why they're doing it and what's happening and what's going to be happening in the future. If you've not given NativePHP a go and you are thinking about developing, an app for iOS or Android, I really do suggest heading over and giving it a go. That and one code base shipped to multiple platforms. I mean, what more could you ask for? And then second up, we've got this post by Nils Adermann. So this is the next post of their kind of security series that they're doing there over on Composer. So this one talks about immutable versions, and they've just released that on Packagist. So now, if you tag a release, a version, and that Git reference, there's no way of changing that now. So, this is one of the things that previously you could do, and, it caused some of these supply chain attacks where they could change the Git reference. So you think you're installing, you could be installing 5.2 and it's actually been changed to like a hacked version or something like that, So this is a great thing. And it says there's some other things like deleted versions are no longer removed. They're still there, so you can see why they were deleted. So again, it's another way to have a bit of insight into if something's wrong with the package. So yeah, it's another step forward for hardening things. So it's a really good thing to see. And then next up, now, if you are starting to put together an API and you're a little bit stuck, you don't know stuff about headers or status codes and things like that, and you're wondering how to do that properly, Steve has put together this excellent guide for you. So over on ApiGuide.dev, it basically breaks down everything you're going to need to know about APIs. So he's kind of distilled all his knowledge into this resource. So again, if you're looking for advice, specifications, tooling, things like that, head over to ApiGuide.dev and yeah, go and dig deep into it. Next up then, there's a video by Vonage. It's Jim Seconde and Jeremy Foster. So they talk about PHP. Now, it's been dismissed for a long time. People have used it 10, 15 years ago, whatever, and they didn't like it. They didn't have a lot of features, things like that. And over the years, it's evolved massively, particularly over the last couple of years. There's been some real good, enhancements. So Jim talks about the past, the present day of PHP, and the way things are going with the future. So if you kind of want an insight into how it was, how it is now, and hopefully the things to come, this is a great video to watch. Next up then, this is an interesting one. I found this interesting because he talks about here how they were removing SSH from all of their boxes, so you couldn't access the boxes using SSH, but they still needed to run Laravel commands, interactive Laravel commands. How they're going to go about doing it. So Alberto talks us through how they used SSM, which is a tool we use as well in our AWS builds, to run these commands. So if you're in a similar situation where perhaps IT is removing SSH access for security reasons, and you're on AWS and you can get SSM running, this might be a really good post for you to check out. Next up then, we've got Christoph. So in this video, he's talking about real-time Laravel notifications, things like that, real-time enhancements to your Laravel application. But we don't use WebSockets. A lot of the time you think, I need real-time, I've got to be using WebSockets. there's a, if you're not using Forge and things like that, sometimes they can be a little bit difficult to set up. Forge has it built in, Laravel Clouds, same things like that. But this here in this video, he talks about using inertia polling, and how that's improved over the years to give you the same ability as WebSockets without the need for WebSockets being there. So again, if you're looking at adding more real time to your application and you don't want to to look at adding WebSockets and you're already using inertia, check polling out. It could be the thing for you. Next up then, we got this post by Matthew. So he built a flat file blog using Laravel Folio. Now, it's not a tool that we've used at Jump24. It's not one that I've used personally, but I just thought it was an interesting use of Laravel Folio. And he kind of goes through in depth of how he did that, how you render in the blog posts, how you do your metadata, all this kind of stuff that you would need for your blog. So yeah, if you're thinking about writing, your own CMS or like a blog system, and you've not given Laravel Folio a go, this could be a useful little post for you to look at. Next up, by Arts and Build, is this week's internals. Really great videos, like give you a breakdown of what's been going on in the PHP internals in a really understanding way. He goes through everything in detail, the unders, and it's really, really good. If you're not subscribed to this channel, I do recommend you go over and do that. Get these updates. And yeah, there's been a lot of interesting stuff going on this week again. And yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see if some of these RFCs pan out over the next couple of weeks. And yeah, check it out. Next up then, if I get the name wrong, I'm really sorry, Nchiminyi. So it's a post about a package that has been created. So it's an AA powered WAF for PHP or Laravel. It's just an interesting little thing that someone put together. He built this student in Cameroon built a security tool and explains why requests have been blocked to your application. Kind of goes through like the things that it catches, what you can use, how to install it, how to run it, and get it going. So if you've not used a WAF, like some of the ones provided by like Cloudflare and things like that, this could be like the first step for for your application to put that in. These little things, they do help with security and things like that. So maybe it's something that you could look at. But yeah, I just thought it was a nice little blog post and a nice little package that someone's created for us to use. And then finally, we've got the final video in the series, Ship AI with Laravel by Harris, over on Laravel News. So this one is probably, one thing that you think about a lot when you're developing with AI, especially when you're building agents and things like that, is prompt injection. We've, for years we've been worried about SQL injection. Now we have to worry about prompt injection. And yeah, so he kind of goes into detail about how he confuses his agent via prompts to give out information it shouldn't be. And then he goes about shows you 4 ways to develop, to harden your AI agent to hopefully stop that from happening. Of course, it might not catch everything, but there's 4 steps here that he's put in place. If you've been following along with the series, it's definitely worth, if you haven't, go back and start from episode 1 and follow through. If you followed along, I suggest you give Harris a big thanks, because he's done a lot of really good work here with these 11 episodes. Kind of give a really good idea on building an AI agent. So yeah, well, that's it for this week. Hopefully there's something there that you've liked. I mean, if you have, please, like I said before, reach out to those the authors, and give them a big thanks. Let them know that you appreciate the work they're doing. And hopefully can see you again next week. So thanks all.